Hey everyone, welcome back to Harry Potter Folklore. So today is going to be a discussion on what Voldemort's Patronus would be if he could cast one. Yes, I am well aware that he cannot cast a Patronus. That is the whole point of this video, to discover how he could manage to perform one, and if he could perform a Patronus, then what would it be? So why the hell can't Voldemort cast a Patronus, or any dark wizard in general? It's not exactly too difficult to understand if I'm honest. Dark wizards cannot cast a Patronus charm because of what the charm represents, which is hope, happiness and the desire to survive, according to Remus Lupin, and it's that line in particular that I want to highlight because it literally ties in with what Voldemort is basically all about. Survival at any cost, at any means. Sure, it's why he wanted to achieve immortality in the first place. So technically it's a loophole, according to Remus Lupin's own words. So Voldemort should be able to produce a Patronus. However, that is only Lupin's personal view on what the charm represents, so it's not exactly law, so to speak, but I did say moments ago I'd find a way in which he could perform the charm, and I've done it. Even saying the word charm for a dark wizard doesn't sit well at all. As for the other Death Eaters, well, I don't think they'd be so lucky if I'm honest, but we'll get through them all today. So what happens to a dark wizard who tries to produce a Patronus, you might ask? Well, I've got a good example for you in the name of a man called Raxidian, and he ties in with one of the most famous tales of the use of a Patronus ever recorded. According to legend, myth and just general word of mouth, the tale of the lowly mouse Patronus, which belonged to a young wizard called Ilias, has lasted the test of time for a reason. Ilias cast a Patronus charm when his village was being attacked by the dark wizard Raxidian and his army of Dementors, an early case, or perhaps the first case of Dementors coming under the control of a wizard. Despite the mouse's diminutive size, it shone with a vibrant, penetrating light, bringing the Dementors to a halt as it nimbly moved through the ranks of fleeing villagers. Enraged, Raxidian decided to enter the fray himself. He tried to summon a Patronus to ward off Ilias's mouse, but failed to remember that only the pure of heart could produce a Patronus. Thus, for the first time in history, it was revealed what happened when a competent but unworthy wizard or witch attempted the spell. Maggots shot out of Raxidian's wand and quickly devoured him as they engulfed his entire body. It was truly awful and quite a graphic sight. The villagers then hailed Ilias as a hero, as his story proves that no matter the size of the Patronus, it's the meaning and happy thought behind it that determines just how powerful it can be. Voldemort has also stated that the Dementors, alongside other dark creatures, are natural allies to dark wizards. They have no needs to be a threat to each other when they can assist each other instead. Voldemort easily turned the Dementors by promising them as many souls as they desired, not just a chance to feed on people's positive energy, but actual souls. There's gonna be a lot of Dementors kissing going on, I can tell you that. Guys, before we start, I'd like to talk about today's sponsor, Surfshark. Surfshark offer you an incredibly powerful VPN to protect your internet privacy. In today's computer age, hackers are constantly trying to gain access to your bank account details, your social media passwords, and access to your personal information, amongst many other things. This can all be prevented when browsing under Surfshark's protection. Not only does it protect your privacy, it also offers you a lot more. Different countries have different viewing restrictions on what content can be viewed. Therefore, by logging into a VPN based in another country, you can gain access to that content that may be blocked in the country that you live in. So now that we've got the reason why he can't produce a Patronus out of the way, and what happens when a dark wizard produces a Patronus, except for Snape that is, because he's the exception that makes no sense, like he's done some pretty awful things as a Death Eater, but his love for Lily makes him exempt, and let's make him make a Patronus. Anyway, let's start evaluating what kind of Patronus Voldemort would have if he could produce one, which he can, because Remus said he could. For Voldemort, I originally thought his Patronus would be the Hydra. That was until I discovered that a three-headed magical snake actually existed in the wizarding world called a runespore. According to writings from Parselmouths, each of the runespore's heads served a different function. The left head, from the perspective of someone facing the snake, was the planner. It decided where the runespore would go and what it was to do next. The middle head was the dreamer. It is common for a rune spore to remain stationary for days lost in glorious visions and imaginations. And the right head was the critic. It evaluated the efforts of the left and the middle heads with a continuous irritable hissing, and its fangs were highly venomous. It was common to see rune spores with the right head missing, as the other two heads often banded together to bite it off when it criticized them too much. Because of this, the rune spore rarely lived to a great age. So next we have Bellatrix Lestrange. When it comes to her Patronus, I had to really think about what animal represented her best, and that would be a black swan, which is considered a symbol of death, but with all swans they are also devoutly loyal. Bellatrix's most fundamental trait is her undying loyalty to her master. It has long been believed that the bird can prophesy its own death and sings a beautiful song the moment before its own passing, which for me highlights the look on Bellatrix's face moments before she was killed by Molly Weasley. So a creature associated with death that follows in its wake fits her in that respect. But what about that obnoxious bigot of a man known as Lucius Malfoy? What would his Patronus be? This one surprisingly didn't take too long to work out due to one reason. He was so damn proud of everything he was and considered himself above the rest, therefore I'd have to choose the Lion to be his Patronus. He doesn't attack head on but looks for ways to pounce on his enemies without causing a stir in the first place. Lucius Malfoy is most definitely a lion. But how about Barty Crouch Jr.? Well, for Barty, he's also devoutly loyal like Bellatrix, even if it meant his death, so for that reason, I would choose the crow. I associate the crow with sacrifice and a connection to the underworld. Crouch would literally go to hell and back for his master if needed be. Crows are seen as good and bad omen depending on the eyes of those viewing them, which fits Barty perfectly. In Voldemort's eyes, he was an asset and quite invaluable, while in the eyes of Harry Potter, Barty was a dangerous, cunning dark wizard who fooled him and many others for the best part of a year. So next up we've got the Carrows. Man, I hate the Carrow twins. Even though they do have limited book and screen time, they still manage to get right under my skin. Anyway, there was literally only one animal that could represent these two, and that is of course the hyena. The hyena are scavengers who, when in enough numbers, will attack others for their kill. The sick and twisted humour of the Carrows and their treatment of students during their time as Hogwarts teachers is perfectly represented by the hyena's disturbing laugh. Peter Pettigrew, aka Wormtail, the double agent who betrayed the Potters, which resulted in their deaths, before going and hiding for 13 years, well, there's only one word, one animal for him, and that is, of course, the weasel. Weasels are often associated with those traits. They also have been observed engaging in surplus killing or only showing confidence when surrounded by numbers. That was Peter Pettigrew all over. He was an untrustworthy coward who got everything that he deserved for the crimes he committed on his friends, even if he originally weaseled his way out of being caught. What about Igor Karkaroff, the Death Eater who betrayed his master and fellow Death Eaters in order to secure his freedom and begin a new life? Well, the Patronus I think would represent him best would of course have to be a lizard. The lizard's capacity for regenerating lost limbs and habit of detaching its own tail to escape predators parallel Karkaroff at his most effective. He detached himself from his old life. A decade on from being a prisoner, he held the title of Headmaster of Durmstrang, which represents his regeneration. Sometimes, though, it doesn't matter if you have narrowly escaped before, if you're constantly a target, which Igor was after Voldemort's return, then eventually you will get eaten, or in this case, killed. Next up we have Rodolphus and Sebastian Lestrange. The Lestrange brothers don't exactly have that much information on them in order for me to really choose a Patronus to suit them. However, due to their participation in the torture of the Longbottoms, it highlights their unstable, aggressive nature by charging directly at their victims with a dominance. For that reason, I would give Rodolphus the Patronus of the Black Rhinoceros and Sebastian the Patronus of the Brown Bear, better known as the Grizzly. Both animals display the traits I believe best represents their characters. So let's continue on to Augustus Rookwood, someone we don't actually see any of in the movie, unfortunately. However, due to his vital role as Voldemort's informant, I'm giving him the Patronus of a parrot, as he repeated everything that was said to him right back to Voldemort. It is believed that should a parrot appear in one's dream, then it is a symbol of mistrust in relation to sharing specific information. So, therefore, I think it suits Augustus Rookwood to a T. Draco Malfoy is our last Death Eater on this list, and I'm pretty sure I've nailed it with this Patronus, which is... it's a snake, of course, but not your normal snake. I'm talking about the Eastern Hognose snake. So, why is this the perfect representation for young Mr. Malfoy? Well, for starters, the snake has sort of a similar colour pattern to the Eastern Diamondback or Pygmy Rattlesnake, and has a broad head with an upturned nose that many people think means it's venomous. Young hognoses are small enough that they are often mistaken for the pygmy rattlesnake in particular. However, if the appearance of this snake doesn't scare off the danger, then there's a series of bluffs that it will perform in order to hopefully do the trick. Firstly, the snake can vibrate its tail to mimic a rattlesnake. If that doesn't work, the snake is known to roll over and actually play dead. For me, this highlights Draco's attempts at trying to talk a big game, act like he's something he's not, when on the inside, he's just a scared little boy trying not to die in a world that looked like it was going to consume him. Well, my friends, that is all. That is today's video on what the Patronus of the Death Eaters would be, and Voldemort's Patronus too. I know I may have left some smaller Death Eaters out, but to be honest, I found them boring and they didn't interest me. And yeah, that's it. They weren't worthy of being part of my majestic video. Anyway guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you all very soon.